Franklin Hayes hated Thursdays. It was the day his ex-wife picked up their son, and the day his delivery route doubled for no reason his boss could explain. He adjusted the thin strap of the worn-out backpack on his shoulder and walked up the stone steps of a brownstone in Tribeca, cradling a heavy box marked fragile. "Last one," he muttered under his breath, glancing at his watch. "If I'm lucky, I'll make it to soccer practice before halftime." The door opened before he could knock. A woman stood there barefoot, in jeans and a white shirt knotted at the waist, her auburn hair messy like she'd just rolled out of bed, but she had the kind of face that made you stop breathing for a second. "Hi," she said, her voice surprisingly soft. "Is that the sculpture from Paris?" Franklin blinked. Yeah, package for Raina Trell. That's me," she smiled, stepping aside. "Come in, it's probably too heavy to leave out," he hesitated. "I'm not supposed to go inside people's homes." "Right, sorry," she paused. "Could you just set it down here then? Careful though, that box is worth more than my first car." Franklin grunted as he lowered the package onto the marble entryway floor. Must have been a nice car. Actually, it wasn't, but this. She crouched beside it, brushing her fingers over the tape like it was a sleeping baby. "This is a Brius original. Took 6 months to ship from France." He had no idea what that meant, he just nodded, glad it made it in one piece. She glanced up at him then, really looked at him. "You okay?" He shifted his weight. "Yeah, just tired. You want some water? I'm good." He started backing away. "Hope you enjoy your whatever that is." "Wait." She stood and walked over to a side table near the door. "You delivered this on foot?" "Yeah." "Traffic's a nightmare in this part of the city." She handed him a folded bill. He opened it, expecting a couple of singles, maybe a 5 if she was feeling generous. It was 100, his eyebrows shot up. "Ma'am, I can't." "Raina," she corrected, "and you can. It's hot out and you carried that thing like it was filled with feathers." He stared at her. "You know this is more than I make in a whole day," she shrugged like it didn't matter. "Then maybe you should charge more," he laughed, almost despite himself. "I don't set the prices. I just carry the boxes." Her smile faded then, just a little. "What's your name?" "Franklin Hayes." "Well, Franklin Hayes," she said, her voice dipping into something just a bit more serious. "Thank you." Before he could say anything else, a small voice echoed from the sidewalk. "Dad. Coach says we're gonna start, and I'm supposed to be goalie." Franklin turned to see a boy around 8, standing near the curb in soccer gear, backpack slung over one shoulder and cleats already muddy. His face was flushed, and his brown hair stuck to his forehead. Raina leaned slightly to the side to see past him. "That yours?" "Yeah," Franklin said. "That's Sam." She tilted her head. "Cute kid." "Thanks," he said, suddenly feeling self-conscious. "We should go practice." "Right." She looked like she wanted to say something else but didn't. "Nice meeting you. You too." He jogged down the steps and ruffled Sam's hair. "Let's go, buddy." As they walked, Sam glanced up. "Who was she?" Franklin kept his eyes forward. "Just someone I delivered a box to. She was pretty." Franklin huffed a laugh. "Yeah. She was." Raina didn't leave Franklin's mind for the rest of the day. 3 days later, he was back at the same brownstone. He checked the address twice because it wasn't on his usual route. This time the box was slimmer, lighter. He knocked. Raina answered in a sleek black dress, her hair pinned back, heels in one hand and phone in the other. "Oh," she said, surprised. "It's you again." "Yeah, got another one for you." She stepped aside. "Come and wait." "No, you can't." "Right, sorry, habit." He handed her the box. "You going somewhere?" "Charity auction. Boring but necessary." She looked him over. "You ever go to events like that?" He laughed. "Not unless I'm sneaking in through the back door with a tray of hors d'oeuvres." She smiled, but there was something curious in her eyes. "What do you do when you're not delivering stuff?" "Fix my truck. Worry about bills. Hang out with Sam. Repeat. You're raising him alone." "Mostly. His mom's around, but..." He trailed off with a shrug. "Yeah. It's mostly me." She went quiet for a second, then said, "Do you want to come tomorrow?" He blinked. "To where?" "The auction. You said you've never been. Come see what it's like." He stared at her like she'd just asked him to climb Everest. "I don't own a suit. I'll buy you one." "What?" "I'm serious." "Why?" She looked him dead in the eyes. "Because I want to, and because you looked like you needed a win." He didn't say anything. "I'll send a car," she added. 7:30. "I don't have a sitter." I'll hire one. He narrowed his eyes. Are you always like this? Like what? Bossy, she laughed. Only when I want something. And you want me there? She nodded. Yeah, Franklin Hayes. I do. He left with her address scribbled on the back of a packing slip and a strange twist in his chest he hadn't felt in years. The next night, he stood outside the same building in a charcoal suit that fit like it was made for him. Because it was. She'd sent a tailor to his apartment that morning. The driver opened the door to a black car. Franklin got in. Inside, Raina was waiting. Her dress was floor-length, dark green, not the color, but the way it shimmered. Her earrings sparkled, her lips were soft pink, and her eyes lit up when she saw him. You clean up really well, she said. You're something else. She smiled and rested her hand on his. Ready? He nodded, though he wasn't sure if he meant for the auction or for her. And as the city lights blurred past, Franklin had no idea he was falling headfirst into a world he never thought he'd belong to, and even less idea that he was already falling for the woman sitting beside him. The ballroom buzzed with shimmering gowns and low murmurs, the kind of place where laughter was polite and champagne never stopped flowing. Franklin stepped inside beside Raina, trying not to gape at the sheer size of it. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen fireworks, and a string quartet played something elegant he couldn't name. He didn't belong here, but she had her hand on his arm, and for some reason that made it okay. You're stiff, she said under her breath, guiding him further in. Try not to look like you're bracing for impact. I'm not used to being a +1 at a velvet rope party, he muttered. You're not a +1, you're with me, he glanced at her. Same thing, no. It's not. She paused as they reached a small circle of sharply dressed guests, all with smiles that didn't always reach their eyes. This crowd, they'll test you, just answer honestly, don't try to impress anyone. That won't be a problem, he said dryly. An older man in a navy tuxedo turned as they approached. Raina. His voice was warm, but his eyes were calculating. You're late. I brought company, she said. Franklin, this is Harold Dunst. He runs the foundation hosting tonight's auction. Harold's gaze flicked over Franklin like he was assessing a faulty chair leg. And what do you do, Mr. Franklin? Just Franklin, he said. I deliver things. Ah, Harold said, the corners of his mouth twitching. A man of movement, Raina interjected before Franklin could reply. Harold, tell me you didn't put the Monet in the silent section. No, Harold said with a dry chuckle. I know better than to bury the headliner. He turned to someone else, already dismissing them. Franklin leaned toward her. So that's what I'm up against. Don't worry, she said. Most of them bluff. You're the only real person in this room. They made their way toward the display area where items up for auction were arranged under soft lights. Paintings, sculptures, rare wines. Franklin's eyes landed on a silver wristwatch in a velvet case. Why would anyone spend that much on a watch? He asked. Because it was worn by a Formula One champion, she said. And some people collect trophies that aren't theirs. He looked at her. Do you? She tilted her head. I used to. Now I just collect moments. A server passed by with flutes of champagne. Franklin took one, mostly to give his hands something to do. You ever get tired of this? She glanced around the room, her expression unreadable. Sometimes, but I don't go for the crowd. I go for the cause. And the cause tonight? Refugee housing. They're building modular shelters in Eastern Europe. I matched the goal in advance, but they don't know that yet. He stared at her. You already paid for the whole thing. Anonymous donations carry more weight than you'd think. People like to feel they made the difference. He took a slow sip, letting the liquid burn slightly down his throat. You're not what I expected, she turned to him. What did you expect? I don't know. Someone with more diamonds, less heart. She laughed softly. I used to be that girl. Then I inherited a mess and had to grow up faster than I wanted. Inherited? My father passed 3 years ago, left me the company, the properties, and a list of enemies I didn't know I had. She paused, her gaze flicking to a man across the room. That one tried to sue me over a hotel I didn't even know we owned. And now you're just on top of the world. Not quite, but I've stopped letting it own me. He looked at her, really looked. You're not like anyone I've ever met. She tilted her head. That's either the best or worst thing you've said all night. Before he could answer, a woman in a red gown approached. Raina, darling, they're calling for you. Opening remarks. The warmth in her face shifted to something more formal. Right. I'll be quick. As she walked away, Franklin moved toward one of the tall tables near the edge of the room. He didn't notice the man who approached until he spoke. "You're the delivery guy, aren't you?" Franklin turned. The man was younger than most of the others, maybe mid-30s, with slicked back hair and a thin tie. There was something sharp in his smile. "Depends who's asking," Franklin said. "I'm Jordan. I handle Raina's logistics team. Noticed your name on the sign and sheet." Franklin narrowed his eyes. "She invited me. I figured. She likes projects. Don't take it the wrong way, she's got a good heart." Jordan's smile hardened. "But this world, it doesn't bend for people like us." Franklin crossed his arms. "You think we're the same?" Jordan's eyes flicked to the suit. "You're wearing last year's Ferrelli. Tailored, sure, but not custom. And your shoes, scuffed near the sole. You're new here." Franklin didn't flinch. "You memorize everyone's shoes or just mine?" Jordan leaned in slightly. "Just a tip. Don't mistake kindness for permanence." "She's generous, but she doesn't stay interested long." Franklin didn't answer. He didn't need to. Raina returned minutes later, applause trailing behind her. She walked straight to Franklin. "You okay?" she asked. "Peaky," he said, not looking at Jordan as the man walked off. She frowned slightly. What did he say? Nothing worth repeating. She touched his wrist gently. "Come on, I want to show you something." They stepped out onto a terrace that overlooked the city. The night was clear and the skyline stretched out like a promise. The noise of the party softened behind them. She leaned on the railing, shoulders relaxing. "This is the only spot where I can breathe." He stood beside her. "Why bring me here?" "Because you didn't ask for anything." He glanced at her. "Is that rare? No one ever just shows up and listens anymore." He hesitated, then said, "I don't know what this is, Raina, but I do know I'm a single dad from Bed-Stuy who doesn't belong in a tux, and you're this." She turned to face him. "I'm just a woman who happens to have a lot of money and a lot of people who want something from me. You're the first person who's just looked at me." He took a breath. "I should probably head out. I have to be up early." She nodded, but her fingers brushed his as he turned. "Come by tomorrow. I'm auctioning off a few pieces from my private collection. I want you to see them." He paused. "You sure?" "I wouldn't ask if I wasn't." As he left, Franklin realized something he hadn't felt in years. He wanted more, not of the champagne or the chandeliers, but of her. Franklin hadn't planned to go. He dropped Sam off at his sister's apartment in Queens, citing work stuff when she raised an eyebrow. He told himself it was curiosity, not the low hum in his chest he couldn't seem to shake, that brought him back to Raina's. When he arrived, the brownstone door was already open. A man in a white shirt with rolled sleeves carried a long, framed canvas past him down the steps. "Upstairs," the guy muttered without looking. Franklin climbed slowly. The hallway smelled faintly like citrus and old paper. The living room was transformed. Art leaned against walls, some already tagged with discreet little placards. Raina stood barefoot in the middle of it all, her hands on her hips, hair in a messy twist pinned with a pencil. "Thought you said a few pieces," Franklin said. She turned, then grinned when she saw him. "I got carried away." He scanned the room. "You're selling all this," she nodded. "Some of it's been in storage for years. What's the point of owning beauty if no one gets to see it? Couldn't you just donate it?" "I am. The proceeds go to a residency program for displaced artists. I'm just letting others invest in the story." Franklin moved closer to a painting of a city skyline at dusk, brushstrokes wild and fast. "You ever paint?" "Used to," she said. "I stopped after my dad passed. That part of me got quiet." "You miss it. It's complicated." He looked at her. "Everything about you is." She walked over to a covered piece near the back wall. "There's one I wanted you to see." She lifted the cloth. It was a portrait. A boy, maybe 8 or 9, sitting on a stoop with his knees pulled to his chest and a backpack beside him. His face was turned up to the light, but his eyes were wary. The background was soft, blurred, like the world around him wasn't fully real yet. Franklin stepped closer. "Is that my brother?" she said. "Before he disappeared." He turned. "Disappeared," she nodded. "He ran away when I was 16. We never found him. He was in and out of foster care, and one day he just vanished." He said nothing for a moment. "That why you do all this?" "The shelters, the programs, part of it." She leaned a shoulder against the wall. "I used to hate him for leaving. Then I realized he'd been slipping away long before he actually left." Franklin studied the painting again. You think he's out there? I don't know. But I like to think he'd be proud of what I've done. He looked over at her. He would. She met his gaze. You say that like you know him. I know what it means to keep going when it'd be easier to stop. He paused. I know what it means to lose someone and still try. She nodded slowly, then gestured toward the kitchen. I made coffee. You want? They sat at the marble island, mismatched mugs in hand. Her said, see Oish. His had a faded cartoon bear. She tapped her fingers against the ceramic. You ever think about starting over? Every morning, he said, but I've got Sam. Starting over would mean dragging him through it. What would you do if you could? He didn't answer right away. Open a garage, fix cars, not just the parts, teach kids how to do it too. Give them something to build. Why haven't you? He raised an eyebrow. You seen New York Rent? I have. He set his mug down. It's a nice dream, but dreams don't pay for cleats and field trips. She didn't look away. What if I helped? No, you didn't even let me finish. Because I already know where it's going. He stood and walked to the window. You don't owe me anything, Raina. I'm not one of your causes. She stayed seated. I don't think of you like that. He turned. Then what is this? I don't know yet, but I'm not used to people pushing me away when I try to help. Well, I'm not used to people like you showing up in my life. She stood. That's not a reason to shut me out. It is when I've spent the past 8 years figuring things out on my own. She stepped closer. And maybe that's long enough. He exhaled, jaw tight. I can't owe you. You wouldn't, she said. It's not a loan and it's not charity. It's belief. He stared at her. You barely know me. I know enough, she said. You work harder than anyone in this room. You put your kid first. You show up even when no one's clapping for you. He looked down. You make it sound noble. It is, she said. But even noble people need a break sometimes. A silence settled between them, heavy but not cold. He finally said, I'm not saying yes. I didn't ask you to, she said. I just want you to think about it. He nodded once. That I can do, she smiled, softer now. Good. Because I'm not going anywhere. Later, as Franklin walked back down the steps and out into the street, he realized something had shifted. The ground beneath his feet still felt uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, he wasn't walking it alone. And that terrified him more than anything. Franklin entered the workshop with grease under his fingernails and a blueprint tucked in his back pocket. The scent of old motor oil and raw wood filled the air. A week ago, it had just been a dusty storage unit 2 blocks from Sam's school. Now it was the first real step toward something that didn't feel borrowed. Raina stood near the back wall, arms folded, watching him with quiet satisfaction. She wore a gray cashmere coat, her hair down for once, tumbling over her shoulders. She didn't look like she belonged in a garage, but she didn't flinch at the oil stains on the floor either. You didn't have to come, he said, wiping his hands on a rag. I wanted to see what you've done with the place. He gestured around. It's not much yet, still needs lights on the west side. And a sign. She walked over to a metal cabinet and tapped the door. You're building this from scratch, that's more than not much. He nodded, then leaned on the workbench. I've been thinking about what you said. Which part? That belief isn't a loan. She didn't answer right away, then said, I meant it. I know. He looked her in the eye. I've started sketching out a program, a weekend thing for kids around Sam's age. Teach them how to do oil changes, replace a battery. Give them something to work on with their hands. Her face lit up, not with surprise, but with pride. That's exactly what this city needs. I can't promise it'll work. You don't have to promise anything. Just keep going. He hesitated, then asked, what about you? You ever think about slowing down? She leaned back against the bench. I thought I'd never be able to, but lately I've started to wonder what it would feel like. Scared, a little, she admitted. Mostly curious. He glanced toward the front door, where sunlight slanted through the gap in the frame. I've never had someone believe in me like this. I've never had someone look at me like I wasn't a transaction, she said. He stepped closer. I'm not good at this part. What part? Letting people in. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Then don't think of it as letting me in. Think of it as walking together. They stood in silence for a moment, the air thick with something unspoken but understood. Then the door creaked open and Sam burst through, his backpack slung over one arm, cheeks pink from the cold. Dad, Aunt Jess dropped me off early. She said she had to take the twins to the dentist. Franklin reached for a towel and tossed it to his son. Wipe your shoes before you track oil everywhere. Sam obeyed, then noticed Raina. You're here, she smiled and crouched to his level. You remember I said I'd help your dad set up the place? Yeah, you're the one who gave him the cool tools. I did. And I heard you're pretty handy yourself. Sam nodded solemnly. I fixed my flashlight last night. Franklin raised an eyebrow. You did? Yeah, the batteries were backwards. Raina laughed, not the polished sound she used at galas, but something unguarded and full. That's the first step to being an engineer. Sam beamed and tugged at Franklin's sleeve. Can we teach people here, like kids who don't have tools at home? That's the idea, Franklin said, meeting Raina's eyes. Later that afternoon, Raina followed Franklin and Sam to the park. The sun hung low, casting everything gold. Sam ran ahead toward the swings while Raina and Franklin walked along the path lined with bare-limbed trees. I didn't expect any of this, he said quietly. I didn't either, she replied. He stopped near a bench. I think I could love you. But I'm not good at pretending I'm something I'm not, she stepped in front of him. I already love you, and I've never wanted anyone to pretend. He searched her face. You're sure? I've never been more. He kissed her, then not rushed, not desperate, just real, grounded. Like he finally believed the ground wouldn't disappear beneath him. Weeks passed. The garage transformed. Kids came on Saturdays, some quiet, some wild, all eager. Raina brought in a friend from a nonprofit who helped them expand into a second unit. Franklin hired his first assistant. Sam drew a crooked logo and they had it printed on the door one evening as they locked up. Franklin turned to Raina. You ever get tired of champagne parties? I haven't gone to one in a month. What if we threw one right here? She raised an eyebrow. In a garage, why not? String up some lights, clean the floors, get a food truck. A gala in a jumpsuit, she said, smiling. I like it. They did it 3 Fridays later. The garage gleamed. The kids wore their best clothes. Raina wore a navy jumpsuit and boots, her hair braided down her back. Franklin wore his sleeves rolled and his hands clean for once. Sam gave a speech that made 3 people cry and 1 reporter from the Times stay an extra hour. That night, as the last guests left and the lights dimmed, Franklin pulled Raina close. I used to think love was something I couldn't afford, he said. And now, she asked, now I know it's the only thing that matters. She leaned her head against his chest. You saved me, Franklin, not with money. With truth. I think we saved each other. He kissed her under the humming lights and the scent of motor oil and fresh paint. It wasn't a fairy tale, it was better. It was theirs. Franklin adjusted the collar of his button-down as he stepped through the glass doors of the Hudson Gallery. The space gleamed with polished floors and towering white walls, each one adorned with bold, captivating art. But none of it drew his attention like the woman standing in the center of the room, her back turned, as she spoke with a man holding a clipboard. Raina wore a deep plum dress that curved elegantly along her figure, her hair pulled into a sleek twist. She glanced over her shoulder and caught sight of Franklin, and something softened instantly in her posture. You made it, she said, crossing to him. You gave me a time and a car, he said. Didn't seem optional. It wasn't, she said, eyes dancing. Tonight's important. More important than the gala in the garage. That was for everyone else, she said. This one's for you, he looked around. I thought this was your show. It is, she said. But I'm not the artist, Franklin blinked. Wait, you didn't paint these. No, you did, he stared at her. Raina. She stepped aside, revealing a painting mounted in the very center of the gallery wall. It was unmistakably his one he'd done late at night in the garage, using leftover materials just to clear his head. A portrait of Sam fixing a bike tire, his hands and face smudged with grease, light catching in his eyes. You took this, Franklin said. I found it in your office, she said. And I knew it needed to be seen. He walked closer, scanning the brushwork, the uneven texture, the rawness of it. This wasn't meant for anyone, but it speaks louder than anything I've ever seen, she said, and so do the others. He turned slowly. Along the far wall, 3 more of his paintings hung. One of the garage at dusk, another of a boy and girl sharing headphones on a cracked city stoop, and the last a quiet, aching depiction of a father and son sitting side by side in silence, their shadows long and reaching. I didn't think they were good enough, he said. They're more than good enough, she said. They're real. Guests began to trickle in, murmuring appreciatively as they took in the pieces. Franklin watched a woman pause in front of the portrait of Sam and wipe her eye. "How did you even pull this together?" he asked. "I called in favors," she said. "A lot of them." He turned toward her. "Why?" Her expression turned serious. "Because you deserve to be seen, not just as a father or a mechanic or someone who survived," her voice caught, "but as someone who creates something beautiful." He stepped closer. "You made me believe I could do more, be more." "You always were more," she said. "You just needed someone to remind you." He took her hand. "You're not afraid of what this means, us?" "I'm terrified," she said honestly. "But I'd rather be scared with you than safe alone." He pulled her into his arms, and the room blurred around them. "Then let's keep being terrified together." They kissed, and neither of them noticed the applause that rippled quietly through the gallery as the guests turned away to give them space. 2 months later, the garage pulsed with life. The mentorship program had grown into a full nonprofit, with volunteers, weekend workshops, and donated equipment. Franklin found himself waking up every day feeling like he was building something that would last not just for Sam, but for all the kids who walked through those doors. Raina stood beside him at the new sign unveiling, her hand wrapped around his as Sam tugged at his sleeve. "When can we go inside?" Sam asked. "I want to show Raina the new air compressor." "You just want to blast stuff with it," Franklin said. "I can do both," Sam replied. They laughed, and Franklin lifted the tarp to reveal the new logo. "Hayes Haven Community Grit Growth," Raina leaned in. "You didn't tell me you picked a name." "I wanted to surprise you," she smiled. "You keep doing that." That evening, after Sam had gone to sleep in his room upstairs converted from the old office, Raina stepped into the kitchen where Franklin was pouring 2 glasses of wine. "You know," she said, accepting the glass, "I used to think love was something that happened after everything else was perfect." He handed her the glass. "And now I know it's what makes everything else worth fixing." He set his glass down and took her hand. "Then let's keep fixing it." Together, they danced slowly in the kitchen, barefoot on the cool tile, the hum of the city outside their only soundtrack. The lights were low, the world quiet, and everything finally felt exactly as it should. Spring came. The garden behind the garage bloomed with help from the kids, who planted vegetables and wildflowers in raised beds. Franklin started teaching art classes every other Sunday, while Raina launched a new initiative to connect young creatives with mentorship opportunities. They didn't aim for perfection, just consistency. And love, one Friday evening, Sam ran out with a flyer in hand. "Dad, Raina, look," they read it together. It was a school newsletter announcing Sam's short story had won first place in the citywide writing contest. "Guess I'm not the only artist in the family," Franklin said, pulling his son into a hug. "Raina helped me edit it," Sam said proudly. "She said stories should always end with hope." Raina looked up at Franklin. "He gets it." Franklin kissed her forehead. "So do I." They stood together in the garden as the sun dipped below the skyline, warmth wrapping around them like a promise. They had found beauty where things were once broken. They had built something out of nothing, and they had chosen each other fully, fiercely, forever. And that was more than enough.